Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, it is May 2nd. We are less than 30 days from D-Day, that being the final date in which you can bring your firearms into compliance with ATF's new rule as it relates to pistol braces. We have been holding off and telling a lot of you to do the same because we were hopeful that something would break loose by now. But here we are less than 30 days from the expiration and, well, nothing is broken loose. So we have decided to throw a couple of firearms into the ATF little hopper here to see what happens, and then maybe you can all learn from our experience. So today I want to spend a few minutes, get you all up to speed and talk about, has ATF's pistol brace rule finally forced our hand? Okay, so what we're talking about yet again today is ATF's rule as it relates to firearms with attached stabilizing braces. As we know, on January 31st of this year, ATF did publish that new rule, leaving us up until May 31st to bring the firearm into compliance. In order to bring a firearm into compliance, we have one of four options. Number one, we can destroy the firearm. Number two, we can turn that firearm over to the ATF. Number three, we can reconfigure that firearm such that the rule does not apply by adding a longer barreled upper to the firearm or removing the pistol brace. Or finally, you can register this firearm as though it is a short barrel rifle using an amnesty registration, which means it can be registered tax-free. Now, as you can tell, I'm here at Washington's nicest indoor shooting range, that is Security Gun Club, and the good folks here at Security were able to share with me some data that they received from the ATF, which is, as of today's date, there have been approximately 125,000 of these firearms registered. Now, that may seem like a lot, but let us remember that the ATF's own estimates was somewhere between, there was 3 to 40 million of these firearms somewhere in the United States, and I always believed that the estimate was much closer to the 40 than it ever was to the 3. Now, assuming that it's somewhere in the middle, somewhere around 20 million, and assuming that maybe perhaps 25% of those people have either reconfigured the firearm or decided to destroy it, which I think is a generous estimate, you're still looking at approximately 15 million firearms that need to be registered by May 31st. You only have 125,000 of them registered. So we are looking at potentially a huge wave, perhaps the type of wave that could crash this system sometime later this month. That's one of the reasons that we decided to do this. The other thing is, and this is the reality, we got 3 separate lawsuits, all of which had their chest puffed out, all of which were talking about how they were going to get injunctions. To this date, we don't have a single injunction. We've had all sorts of congressional hearings. We've had all sorts of grilling of Steve Dettelbach about this. And a lot of politicians have puffed their chest out also. And yet here we are and the clock's still ticking. So right now, despite the fact that there have been lawsuits and politicians, all of which being very braggadocious about what they were going to do to this rule, the clock is still ticking. And so that is why we have decided to take 2 separate firearms and throw them into the Form 1 hopper. Now, why 2? Because we're going to do a little bit of an experiment here. I have one firearm, which is a firearm with an attached stabilizing brace, clearly falls under the purview of this rule, and that will be entered in via an amnesty Form 1. Now, just for the sake of this experiment, we also have a lower receiver with a rifle stock on it, which we are going to register as a short barrel rifle, not under the amnesty registration, but under a traditional Form 1, and we will pay the $200 tax stamp. We submitted both of those firearms on the exact same day, which is May 3rd, and we're essentially going to have a foot race to see which one of these completes its journey quicker. Now, what was my experience in getting these firearms registered? Well, the first thing is I need to get all the data accumulated, primarily my fingerprints and the correct photograph and all that. I was able to come down here to Security Gun Club where they have a one-stop shop, was able to get all my fingerprints done, was able to get my photo taken, everything there, and I was able to leave with this cool little thumb drive of which I will have all the data. I then went home to finish the application process from a home computer. Okay, so what we're going to do is go through the eForm 1 system. Now, you go to this web address right here to get started. And if you've never done this before, you're going to go ahead and need to register for an eForms account. Of course, this will include you having to create your own password. And then you can also assign a 4-digit PIN associated with your account. Okay, once you've created your account, or if you already had one, you're just going to go ahead and log in. And of course, you have to go through the fact that, you can't be lying on any of this stuff unless you become a felon.
you will have to go through this rules of behavior for the e-forms and acknowledge that you have in fact read all of this, and you will be a good boy or girl as you are filling out this form. Now we're going to go ahead and begin a new ATF Form 1 by clicking right up here. Now, for the purposes of this one, I am going to make this because this is going to be our amnesty application, so we know that this must be made by an individual. So I will select individual and move on. Okay, so here we are on the next page. Now we are still filing as an individual because this is our amnesty registration. We are not paying the tax, so we come down here to the tax exempt box. That's what we are doing. Now, here we understand that we have to certify that our firearm does in fact fall under the purview of ATF's rule as it relates to firearms with attached stabilizing braces. Now, I can assure you that the firearm that I am registering in this case is a firearm with an attached stabilizing brace that would fall under the purview of this rule. And I can say that with absolute certainty. I do not need to click on the link here to make sure what the rule says, so I'm going to hit accept. Okay, now we get to the part where we have the individual application information. It starts with FFL, but if you have the no FFL box marked over here, you won't have to worry about that. There's a series of questions down here in section 2 of this portion. It's the exact same questions that you answer in many ways on section 21 of a 4473. All of these do need to be answered honestly and in the negative. If any of them cannot be answered honestly in the negative, this application will be rejected. Okay, over on the right side, you're going to get the edit line item. And from here, you can begin to go in and start editing any other additional information and start uploading your fingerprint identification as well as a photograph. Okay? Now, I already had the good folks at Security Gun Club do this for me, so I'm going to be able to do this and upload it immediately from the thumb drive that they gave me. Also, important to note that as much as we do not like to give out our social security numbers, if you put it here, according to the ATF, the application will go quicker. A lack of a social security number could, in fact, delay the application. That's according to the ATF, so take that for what it is worth. Any box which is highlighted in red is a box that still needs to be filled out, so those need to be filled out before you can proceed. Okay, so once all of those changes have been submitted and sent back, including the uploading of our fingerprint card as well as our passport photo, we get to move on now. Okay, now I have to give out the information of the Chief Law Enforcement Officer. I live in the beautiful town of Kirkland, Washington, so that is the Kirkland Police Department. Okay, so now that I got all of the Kirkland Police Department's information, including Chief Sheree Harris, as well as all their information, we can now move on. Okay, so this is where you're going to need the information on the actual firearm, because now we need to actually add the firearm by clicking on the Add Firearm here. And now we're going to go ahead and enter the information as to the make and model of the firearm, probably just the lower receiver, but this is where this information needs to go. Okay, now this is important. You have to verify the manufacturer, because if you don't verify the manufacturer, you can't verify the country that they were from. Okay, so this is now where we're going to start selecting our model number, the caliber, the unit of measure, if we so have it, the length of barrel, the overall length, and a serial number. Okay, and then any descriptions and other items that you may have to or want to add right here. Okay, once we got all of that information entered, we're going to move on now. And they are going to ask now at this point for any kind of photos up close of any stamping or engraving currently on the serialized part. The good news is I do in fact have a photo of that. Okay, uploaded the document. Go ahead and hit Add Document, and away we go. And now we are ready to hit Finish. Okay, once we've checked all of our information, we're going to certify that it's correct and hit Enter.
Go ahead and click that you're not a robot, then click that you're not lying and willing to go to prison. Click Sign and Submit. You'll have to then enter the 4-digit code that you set up when you originally registered. Click Submit, and congratulations, your amnesty Form 1 is hereby submitted. Okay, we ended up filling out another Form 1. This one is an individual, but it was not an amnesty Form 1 because we're doing it as an SBR, so it was pretty much the same except for the fact that we had to pay the $200 tax stamp. Okay, so once again, the date of submission of both the amnesty Form 1 and the normal Form 1 was May 3rd, 28 days prior to the expiration date or the date that we have to bring these firearms into compliance. We will keep you posted with regular videos as to what's happening with both of those firearms, and as soon as we have approvals, we will let you know. Now, I want everyone to be clear about this. This is what we have decided to do, and part of the reason that we've decided to do that now is to use it as an educational tool for all of you. Am I suggesting for 1 second that all of you need to jump into the waters right now and get your firearms registered? No, I'm not. But I do want you to be aware that there is a deadline, and barring some kind of cataclysmic event with a lawsuit, an injunction, or something out of Congress, we are all going to run up against that deadline, and there is a possibility, in fact, I think there's a high probability that in the last 4 to 5 days of this, we may see this system crash. So please keep that in mind. Okay, you may have more questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights. If you do, you should know how to contact Washington Gun Law by now, but if you don't, that's okay. That information is in the description box down below. In the meantime, I do want all of you to remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.